Hi, welcome to Just in Canada and our continuing series on Canada's social changemakers. My name is Justin Douglas, and today I'm here with Kenneth Deer. Kenneth is from the Bear Clan of the Mohawk Nation of the Kahnawake Territory just south of Montreal. He's an educator, an award-winning journalist, and a very well-respected political and human rights activist. He's also one of the participants in the development of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Thank you for being here, Kenneth. It's a pleasure to have you.
My pleasure to be here.
Great. So we're going to do a little bit of a talk today about Indigenous issues that are going on in Canada, and we'll jump right into it. So to start things off, can you just tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from?
Well, my name is Kenneth Deer, and my name in my language is Hayandu,
Okay.
and it means the fire still burns.
So you were an active participant in the United Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. It took over 25 years to create this declaration, and it was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2007. 144 nations voted in favor of this declaration. 4 nations voted against it. Canada was one of the 4 nations that voted against. You've spent so much time in your life trying to make this declaration a reality. What are some of the important principles of this declaration and articles, and why is it important to us?
I think all the articles are important. There's 46 articles in the Declaration. Every one of them are important to us. I think but the fundamental reason why we have a declaration is that the United Nations and states, member states, did not see Indigenous peoples as being equal to all other peoples. So we had to convince the United Nations that yes, we are equal. And because we are peoples, we have a right to self-determination. And so those are the 2 most important issues, Article 1 and Article 3, which says that Indigenous peoples are peoples. And Article 3 says, because Indigenous peoples are peoples, we have a right to, they have a right to self-determination, to freely choose our political and economic direction, whatever we want to choose, like all the rest of the peoples in the world. Those are the 2 most fundamental issues.
But that's a good transition then, just in general, to how we can have better communications, interactions, understandings between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians who don't necessarily know the history or the full understanding of what's really taken place in our country. How do we educate and really create a conversation?
Well, I think you said, you know, the whole thing about education is what you said. Why don't Canadians know about Indigenous peoples? And the root is in the education system. Canadians are not educated about Native people, you know, and we're practically, again, almost invisible in the system, and that has to change. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission came out with a number of recommendations about the Canadian system, and some provinces are reacting to that and saying that it's true that, there's a tremendous amount of lack of education. Canadians are ignorant about Indigenous people and that relationship, and that ignorance is what causes racism and also the assimilation policies and all the other stuff that comes with it is because of that ignorance. So now the education system can change, and that'll help us in the future. But what can help us now, though, is I think that is a problem. You know, I still think that there's a tremendous amount of that institutionalized racism in the system that we're fighting for, and it takes, you know, shows like this, you know, and media to try to correct the current generation of people into to have a better have a better understanding with Indigenous people. One of the problems that I think I call it, you know, institutionalized racism, that the issue of Indigenous is not supposed to be about race. You know, our rights are not race-based rights. You know, our rights are based because we're a people. You know, we are peoples, and that we have a right to self-determination, and that's those rights that we have. They're not different rights than your rights. Only the issue is that our right to self-determination is being denied, and that we have an equal right to self-determination. That's where that one-to-one. That's where the equality has to come in, and it's not about race. It's not because of our you know, our genetic makeup, you know, but it's because it's a fundamental issue of who we are as the first peoples here, and meeting and reacting with the other peoples that came later. And that's the equality, you know, the peoples that were here and not, it's not about a race, and it shouldn't be about, we are fighting the racial superiority of the Europeans that came here, but they should never be about race any longer.
It was such a pleasure to have you here. It's only the beginning of what hopefully will become a very long conversation between Canadians and Indigenous folks. So even though it was just an introduction for today, we're going to be continuing in the Just in Canada team to hopefully do a roundtable on different issues and to really get in depth on creating conversations for Canadians and hoping to help educate and inform. You don't have to agree, but you have to participate in the conversation so that we can move forward as a country. So thank you so much again for being here today. I certainly got a lot out of this conversation, and I hope the people watching this did too. So thank you again.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
And we'll talk again soon.
Okay, anytime.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So long.